The image that you are currently seeing is the last known image of a young woman just moments before she would lose her life in such a brutal way. Hello, true crimerers. This is the case of Sasha Samsudean. Viewer discretion is advised. Real quick before we get started, please make sure you subscribe here to my YouTube channel. I tell 3 true crime stories every single week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I also tell short form true crime stories over on my TikTok page, and my new TikTok page will be linked in the link tree in the description of this video, so please feel free to follow me there as well as my other socials. All right, well, let's get into today's video. Sasha Samsudean was born on July 4th, 1988, and from what I can tell, she lived pretty much her entire life in Orlando, Florida. She would go on to graduate from the University of Florida, and after that, she would get a job working in realty, something she did really well at. She had a personality for it, for sure. People would call her the Cupid of apartment hunting. She made people fall in love with the rentals she was showing. Sasha was described as a happy-go-lucky young woman. She had a huge personality. She was always smiling. She was just this really sweet, intelligent, fun young woman. And one night, a stranger would take all of that from the world. By 2015, Sasha is a 27-year-old woman, and she is living alone in her apartment in Orlando, Florida. Sometime after midnight on October 17th, 2015, Sasha would end her night. She had been spending that evening at a bar with some friends. She was having an absolute blast. She was having fun. She was drinking. She was dancing. She was just being with her friends was just something she absolutely loved. And at least her last night on this earth was spent doing something, she enjoyed. So Sasha would leave the bar and she would begin her walk home. The following morning, Sasha was expected to meet a friend or two, I think, for breakfast. And when that breakfast meeting came and went, and Sasha didn't show up, the friends were like, well, this is a little strange. It's not like her to just completely skip an appointment like this. At the very least, she would typically call or text. She didn't even post on social media like, ugh, I'm so hungover. I slept in. Sorry to my friends for missing the breakfast date. And when they had no contact with her, they thought something is wrong. And so they would go to her apartment building, which was actually the Uptown Place condominiums. When they got there, they noticed her car was there, and in the car, they can actually see that there was a present on one of the seats. That present was a gift she was bringing to a baby shower she was expected to attend that day, but she also didn't show up to that. So they go up to her apartment, they knock on her door, they try to buzz her, nothing. No responses. They try calling her again, text messages, nothing. The friends know that something is wrong, her car is here, she's not answering, so we're calling police. So that's what they do, and police arrive a little bit later, and after they attempt knocking on the door, they also are unsuccessful in reaching her. This is when they begin to smell a very heavy odor of bleach, way stronger than anyone should have in their apartment normally. So this gave them enough probable cause to enter the apartment, and that's what they did. And unfortunately, when they did, they found the body of 27-year-old Sasha Samsudean. She was lying partially clothed on her bed under her sheets. Sasha had bruises on her arms. It looked like someone was squeezing her arms, trying to pin her down to the bed. Her shirt and her bra had been forcibly ripped open by someone. And the coroner would later determine that her cause of death was strangulation. And they also determined that she, in fact, was sexually assaulted. There was no forced entry into her apartment. They even checked, I think she was on the, I believe on the second floor. And they even checked like her patio door there. Maybe someone broke in through it. Nobody did. There was no broken glass. The door handles weren't broken. Nothing was jimmied. Her front door, there's no splintered wood or broken wood. The lock was intact. So no one forcibly broke into the apartment. This is an apartment building where you need a key card to actually enter the building itself, and then a code to enter the apartment that you're going into. So the likelihood is that either someone knew the code to her apartment, got inside either before or after she got there, or she willingly allowed this person in, or someone followed her in directly after she opened the door. The apartment itself was really neat and tidy. She always kept a very clean space, not much clutter, and that's the way it looked. There was no signs of people rummaging through drawers or cabinets being ripped open. There wasn't like belongings strewn about. There was no indication whatsoever that anyone tried to rob her. All of her valuables were there, her money was there, everything, her kitchen, her living room, her bedroom, everything was just a neat, tidy order. So whoever did this with the intent of specifically going after Sasha and attacking her and sexually assaulting her, and then which probably ultimately led to the murder. In terms of evidence, they did find some shoe impressions inside the apartment. They were obviously too big to be hers. They appeared to be from some sort of men's shoe, and they were pretty clear. They were able to, like if they were found the shoe, they would be able to match it up. They had that. The other thing they noticed that was odd was that, you know, Sasha lived in this apartment on her own. She was a single woman. There was no men living there, but her toilet seat, both the seat and the lid, were up, which would indicate a male likely used it. So they thought that was odd. So they dusted it for prints, and they actually found a print on the toilet seat that was not Sasha's. When they plugged it into the system, it didn't match anyone. So they didn't know who it belonged to, but they strongly suspected that may be a fingerprint from the killer, as is probably the shoe impressions. They also swabbed her neck and I believe her wrists for DNA, and I think they found either skin cell DNA or touch DNA or transfer or something, and from a male contributor that obviously wasn't Sasha. So they plugged that into the system, and again, it didn't show up with anyone. But again, we have the evidence to link to someone. We just need to find who that someone is. So the next thing the police check is the CCTV footage in the apartment building. There are cameras inside. There's cameras focused on the main entrance, on some of the hallways, near the stairwells. And so they need to get a warrant, and they have to wait to get the footage. So while they're doing that, they talk to the security personnel who was there on site. And this is a building that had a security guard on site at all times. So the man who was security that particular evening was a man named Stephen Duxbury. He said that he barely saw Sasha that evening, that essentially sometime like around 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe a little bit afterwards, she tried getting in the building, but she didn't have her key card and she didn't have her ID to prove who she was. And so he said he wasn't letting her in, and that she was with two females, presumably her friends. And what happened next is that a gentleman who had a key card, he came in from the outside, he opened the door and he went in, and then Sasha just followed behind afterwards. And then her two friends, they left. The security guard states that he only ever saw Sasha at her door trying to like fumble with the key code, but that's the only interaction he had with her, according to him, that he didn't see her any other point of the night. Police did track down the two friends. They did confirm that they were outside the apartment with Sasha. They weren't letting her in, and then the guy went in, and then Sasha followed, and then that's when the two friends left. So they confirmed that aspect of it, but it didn't help with what happened, you know, in the building. So police needed to know who was the man that she followed in. You know, he may be a suspect. You know, maybe, you know, he inadvertently let her into the building, and then maybe he took notice of her, followed her to her apartment, and did something to her. It's possible. Maybe he knew her. They don't know. So they find out who it was. They take his fingerprints. They take his DNA. They collect his shoes. None of it matches any of the evidence at the crime scene. Not a single piece. So they pretty quickly ruled that man out. As they were kind of investigating that man, another neighbor came forward to say that they actually saw the security guard that night almost borderline stalking Sasha throughout the apartment building after she got there, which doesn't make sense because the security guard, who's supposed to be this trustworthy protector in the building, he said he only interacted with her very, very briefly for like literally just moments, and that was it. So what gives? And that's when they finally get the actual CCTV footage from the apartment building. Lo and behold, they found out that Stephen Duxbury is a liar, liar, pants on fire. So at about 1:46 a.m., they see Sasha entering the building. Sasha is seen stumbling around. She's clearly intoxicated. Everybody confirms she was drunk. This wasn't in question, and she was allowed to be, of course. But she was stumbling around the apartment building. She was having a hard time getting up the stairs. She was having a hard time finding her apartment. She was just, you know, she was drunk. She was just, it was difficult. We've all been there. But here's where it gets interesting for the investigators, because Stephen Duxbury is literally observed on camera following Sasha around this building for 40 minutes. And I'm not talking like from afar, like kind of creepily from a distance. He's right next to her the entire time. He's either right behind her, next to her, in front of her. He's actually seen on camera entering certain hallways that needed a key card that he uses to let her in. And then they confirmed, and so they double checked with the security card data to confirm it was his card that was used to enter those parts of the building that they can see Sasha going into. Unfortunately, they did not have cameras on the hallways that focused on the apartments, the doors, so they don't know what happened when she got to the hallway with her apartment. They couldn't see it. But they do know that Stephen was lying his face off because he was with her the entire time. In fact, the last person to see Sasha confirmed is Stephen Duxbury. Stephen Duxbury told investigators that he left his job that day at 6 o'clock in the morning, like he always did. They quickly found out that too was a lie. They have him on camera at 6:36 a.m. leaving the second floor portion of the apartment building, carrying a white trash bag or two, I think 1 or 2 white trash bags. And then a few minutes later, he's seen going back into the building and then leaves later on. So he left way after 6 o'clock in the morning. He was there for much longer than he said. So at this point, they bring him in for questioning. He vehemently denies. I had nothing to do with it. I barely saw her that night. Well, Stephen, we have the footage that you were hand in hand with her, essentially. Okay, fine, she was drunk and I was just leading her to her apartment. I didn't want to get any kind of trouble. I don't want people to think it was me, but yes, I was blah, blah, blah. Stephen, come on, be forthcoming now. Be for real. But he still sat there and denied. And so at that point, they asked him, could we please have the shoes that you were wearing that night? He readily gives them to him without any question. They're a newish looking pair of shoes, pretty clean. And they test the shoe bottoms against the shoe impressions in the apartment, and 100% was not a match. Those were not the shoes that were in that apartment. But now that they've gotten the CCTV footage, they've now obtained a warrant to access Stephen Duxbury's apartment. They get into his apartment, and it's a trash heap. It's just littered with clutter and garbage. It's a mess. It smells. And while there, they find several pairs of shoes. And they notice one pair where the bottoms looked like the impressions at the apartment, but they wanted to make sure, so they had it forensically analyzed by their team, and they confirmed that everything on that shoe impression matches the shoe found in Stephen's apartment. Not the shoe he says he was wearing that night, even though they've caught him now in another lie, that these were the shoes he was wearing that night, or at the very least, those were the shoes inside her apartment that night. So unless he went home, put those shoes back on, and then for some reason went to her apartment, but he also said, I've never been in Sasha's apartment. And that's important because when he denies ever accessing it, ever stepping a foot inside, when they now have evidence, physical evidence, to literally place his feet well inside the apartment, they now know they probably have their guy. So they collect his fingerprints, they collect his DNA. Everything is a match. The DNA is proof positive. The fingerprint is the exact fingerprint left on Sasha's toilet seat. So now they know that his skin, his hands were around her neck and on her wrists. They know he touched her toilet seat. They know that his shoes found in his apartment were the exact shoes that left the impressions in Sasha's apartment. Not to mention, when they looked over the security footage from inside the building, there was a 90 or so minute gap of time where Stephen Duxbury, who was supposed to be on shift, was never seen on camera. Not once, for 90 straight minutes. That would line up with the fact that he was probably in her apartment sexually assaulting and murdering her. The likelihood is that, he worked in this building. He had been working there for a little while at least, and so he probably had seen and interacted briefly with Sasha over the course of time. He probably became infatuated with her, and then finally he noticed on his shift she came home and she was, shit-faced drunk, and so he decided that this may be an easy target. He may be able to maybe convince her, right, to have sex with him, because she's drunk, because he's an idiot. And so he offers to help her get to her apartment, and he helps her, get around the place. And what happens is probably she opens the door, and maybe he asks if he can come in, and she probably says no. And so maybe he forces his way in. It's not really known for sure, but he entered that apartment directly after she did. And then he would have gotten her to her room, where he proceeded to force her down, evidence, with the bruises on her arms to indicate he forcefully pushed her arms down, where he sexually assaulted her, and then realized that she's a witness. And so now he had to kill her, and so he strangled her to death. Essentially killing this innocent, beautiful, intelligent, happy young woman simply because he wanted to have sex with her. But he raped her. And I never understand the mentality these people have to go, yeah, it's probably worth it. But make it make sense. You can't. It's more unbelievably frustrating than anything. These people feel so entitled, these men feel so entitled to something that isn't theirs, and when they're told no, they don't like it, and so they have to take it. Go home and watch porn. I don't know, well, it turns out that this security guard, Stephen, he had been a kind of a problematic person there at the building. There were women who would come forward to say that he always made them feel uncomfortable. There was times where he kind of slowly stalked women around the building when they were trying to get inside their apartment. And it became an issue where he was complained on several times, but they never fired him. Had they fired him after maybe the first complaint, at least the second, this wouldn't have happened. This would not have happened. Had there been more cameras, had there been cameras down the hallways that point directly at the doors, you never know. Stephen may not have been so courageous to enter her apartment because as security, he would have known that there were cameras there. I can't say that for sure because of what was going through his brain, but you never know what a camera placement could do to change someone's plans. At any rate, Stephen Duxbury was then arrested and charged with murder, sexual battery, and burglary. He went on trial in 2017. The trial lasted maybe a week. The jury came back pretty instantly. And because, let's face it, and this is a case where the evidence was so unbelievably overwhelming that there was just no way that he wasn't being convicted. There was no way. You had fingerprints in an apartment he said he never entered. Shoe impressions from his shoes in an apartment he said he never entered. And most importantly, his DNA around her neck. She was strangled to death. with his hands. You also have the fact that he lied, just bold-faced lied to police about only seeing her for a brief moment. You had footage of him literally stalking her for 40 minutes around that building. You had footage of him leaving after he said he'd already left with a white garbage bag. You had so much against this guy. It was as much of a slam dunk as you could possibly get. So the jury came back quickly. He was found guilty. He was convicted, and he was given 2 life sentences plus an additional 15 years for the burglary aspect. And he will never have parole. So this man will never breathe free air for the rest of his natural life. Sasha's family would also sue the apartment building because, you know, one, because of the, if you're going to have cameras in the building, why not have them down the hallways? Because you never know what that might prevent. The other aspect of their lawsuit was the fact that they hired this guy and kept him on after several complaints, because he should have been fired. After tenants are saying how uncomfortable he makes them, especially female tenants, and he's following them around the building. He should have been let go. And if he was, this wouldn't have happened. I don't know how far that lawsuit got, or if they got any money, or they won, or they lost. I don't know. A lot of the times, these lawsuits, the information isn't readily available, so I'm not sure. But Sasha Samsudean was this innocent, friendly, outgoing, young woman who had such a vibrant future ahead of her. She was going to be so successful in the realty business, it sounds like, and she had everything going for her. She had a large circle of friends, a family that loved her dearly. She brought so much to this world just with her being her. And it's a loss for everyone, but especially her friends, and most especially her family. But because one piece of shit man needed to have his fun, which is disgusting to even say, the world doesn't get to have Sasha anymore. But she did get justice. She got solid justice. And hopefully that's solace to her family. And hopefully Sasha Samsudean is resting comfortably in peace. And my only hope for Steven is that while in prison, he drops the soap at least every day. Every day, I hope. And I hope he enjoys it. Yeah. But that is it for this case. True crime, a Rooney, a Dooney, a Dingleberry Dongs. Like I said towards the beginning, hi, I'm Mike. If you're seeing me for the first time, please subscribe here. I tell true crime stories, yada, yada, yada. Here and on TikTok, all the links are in the link tree, in the social? Ow! Oh! Why did I do that? In the description of this video. Hello, don't sing. Okay. What? Also, I have a Discord server. Please be over the age of 18 or else you'll be booted out of there, you freaks. That's also in the link tree. I also sell merch. We ship all over the entire world, okay? And even on to Uranus. That was a dumb joke. That was like a 4-year-old joke. Anyway, yeah, so all those links are below, so click them. Click them. Just click them. Click them, you dummies. Why'd I say dummies? That was rude. God, you guys are making me say such mean things to you. No, you don't. I say mean things to you. You guys are lovely. What am I doing? Why am I scolding you all the time? Why? For what? For why? For who? For when? What? I need my medication. I think my medication's not working. Maybe I need to take more of it. I don't know. I'm having conversations with people who aren't here, and you're just watching this with probably concern in your eyes. You're like, what is this dude's deal? Unsubscribe. Please don't. This is everything to me. Please don't unsubscribe. I love you. I love you. We'll just sit here and stare at each other until the next video. So we'll just, because I don't know how to say goodbye. Because I could say goodbye. I can say the word goodbye. I just know how to say goodbye. Goodbye. Let's just stare until the next video. This will be a long time because the next video is not until, oh God, when? Wednesday? Oh shit, this will be a long time. I don't know if I have enough battery power on my camera, so. You blinked. You lost. We weren't playing a game, Mike. Okay. Bye. Bye. Oh, yuck. Yuck.